좀 만나줬어 Through that summer or so when after do 까맣게 지성을 담은 The street of the world you don't give up 좀 만나줬어
Kubernetes? Yes, Kubernetes. Yes, bash, F1. Bash. Bash. Cunt. Yes. Go. Play.
Young dudes in their high boots tonight in the past what's it now it's your turn
EOS. Yes, EOS. Where am I? So.
It's just the way we feel. We love this agitation. We want the
French, please. In French. French. Canadian French.
In fascination. It's a passion. You love your life on a joyride. Love, kill the young dudes in the high boots. Fascination.
Wow.
Fascination. It's just the way we feel. We love this agitation. We want the education. It's like a revelation. We live on fascination. Say the word. Say the word. Say the word. Say the word.
Say the word. Say the word. Fascination.
Say the word. Say the word. Say the word. Say the word. We love this exaltation. We want the new temptation. It's like a revelation.
Ah, the parrot. I want more parrot. I want more Monty the parrot. He's so cute.
Too much of anything can make you sick. Even the good can be a curse. Makes it hard to know which road to go down. Knowing too much can get you hurt. Is it better? Is it worse? Are we sitting in reverse? It's just like we're going back.
Bash.
I want this to go. Driving fast, but let's go slow. What I don't wanna do is crash, no. Just know that you're not in this thing alone. There's always a place in me that you can call home. Whenever you feel like we're growing apart, let's just go back to the start. Oh. Anything that's what happened, sure enough worth fighting for.
Parrot. The parrot's the moderator.
Now every day ain't gonna be no picnic. Love ain't no walk in the park. All you can do is make the best of it now. Can't be afraid of the dark. Just know that you're not in this thing alone. There's always a place in me that you can call home. Whenever you feel like we're growing apart, let's just go back to the start. Anything that's what happened, sure enough worth fighting for.
God, I'm sick of this song. Shut up.
Thursday night, everything's fine, except you've got that look in your eye when I'm telling a story and you find it boring. You're thinking of something to say, you'll go along with it, then drop it and humiliate me in front of our friends. Then I'll use that voice that you find annoying and say something like, yeah, intelligent input, darling, why don't you just have another beer then? Then you'll call me up, and everyone we're with will be embarrassed, and I won't give a shit.
Bash.
My fingertips
Tips are holding onto the cracks in our foundation.
I don't know that I should let go, but I can't. And every time we fight, I know it's not right. Every time that you're upset and I smile, I know I should forget, but I can't.
Dying. Thank you.
You said I must eat so many lemons, 'cause I am so bitter. I said I'd rather be with your friends, mate, 'cause they are much fitter. Yes, it was childish and you got aggressive, and I must admit that I was a bit scared, but it gives me thrills to wind you up. My fingertips are holding onto the cracks in our foundation. I don't know that I should let go, but I can't. And every time we fight, I know it's not right. Every time that you're upset and I smile, I know I should forget, but I can't. Your face is pasty.
Videos. Playlists, please.
Space as a complex structure, so you can have the story, and you will have that the space of n form, complex value at n form, a canonical decomposition in omega p q, which correspond to the decomposition I had here, and in local coordinates, section of this omega n are function times some product of dz and dz bar with p dz and q dz bars. And important is that the Durham differential decomposes into two pieces, one with map omega pq to omega p plus 1q and the other to omega pq plus 1, and it's clear in local coordinates. Next, if you have a complex vector bundle on X, and just now I don't remember the analytic structure, just a complex C-infinity vector bundle on the space X, then one has a notion of connection. And if you have a connection, I don't assume integrable, it is extend canonically to maps omega n v, so omega n tensor v to omega n plus 1 v, with the, yes, the connection is something which satisfies delta fv equals dfv plus f dv, and for the extension you want nabla of f alpha, a form times a section of v is d alpha v, and now a plus of minus alpha nabla of v, where this plus of minus is minus 1 at the power of the degree of alpha, because we use switch this derivation across a p form. Now, if you are in the complex analytic case, you can also speak of connection either in the d prime direction or in the d second direction. So this is something which we call either nabla prime or nabla second to v going to omega either 0, 1 or 1, 0 of v. With this, and you have the same formalism, it extends to a map from omega n v to omega n plus 1 of v. Now, in this case, because of this extension, you can consider the curvature nabla 2, which is product with two form with value in endomorphism. You have the notion of zero curvature, meaning that you get
So again, this video is part of a full series. Be sure to check out the description of this video or the annotation on the screen for the full playlist, putting out new videos every week. Right now we're going over the basics. Last week I talked about what a shell is and mentioned that there are different shells. And again, you can find out what shells are installed on your system by typing cat etc shells, and it will tell you a list of all the shells that are available on your system. And on my system, I am running Z shell by default, but most systems run Bash
Silverero
gel. Start Bash
cat
on the screen
etc shells.
Make the screen a little bit larger, the text a little bit larger here.
What it says on mine is that.
So I want to show you,
what it says on mine.
A few of the differences between
because
Z shell and talk about why I switched. Now, first off, you might right off the bat notice that I have some color coding going on my screen up here in Z shell and not in Bash. You can have color coding in Bash. The fact that I don't use Bash, I don't have my system set up with any fancy settings. And some of the things I do in Z shell, maybe you can get Bash to do with certain settings. I haven't seen them, but it's possible. But
okay, there we go. So mine just runs through Wine.
Shell.
Obviously,
there is
I like Rails, but I'll see what this guy has
Linux
to say.
distribution called, I think
ZSH
it's Greml,
cool.
GRML, and they use Z Shell as their default setup, and I really like their setup, and they share their config files so you can get it running on your system if you install Z Shell. And I liked it so much that about 2 or so years ago, I switched, and I'm loving it so far. So first off, let me switch directories here. My temp directory. Now I can list out all my files here in both Bash and Z Shell. And I do have color coding enabled on both. But you'll notice that right here I have a file called beta, and you can see it right here as well.
Okay, sure.
So now with
See, I actually just
Z Shell,
use
I can
data and
type in
Unicode to do
ls
that. So.
space B and hit tab, and you can see that it gives me some auto-completion
off.
suggestions. I have beta,
Sudo bash.
PDF file, looks like some
Step
sort of
over.
Blender temp
Step
folder.
over.
Down here, I can type in LSB, and I have to
Oh, yeah, I know I
double
have a Lambda shell.
well, the hit tab once it doesn't work the first time.
Ampersand.
Second how it goes. And you'll notice that, so the tab is a little different, but that's not a big deal, that it's only listing out 2 files. The PDF file and the Blender temp file. Why is that? Well, Unix and Unix-like systems, such as Linux, are case sensitive. So when I type B and hit tab, it shouldn't be showing this beta here because it's a capital B, which is different than lowercase b. But the way I have Z Shell set up, and maybe you can do this with Bash as well, I don't know, it ignores that case and it auto-completes for both. So it lists all files that start with B rather than just all the ones that start with lowercase, which is kind of nice. Another thing about the auto-completion when it comes between Z Shell and Bash is, let's say I do
Rails,
and I type in B up here, I can hit tab, and if I keep hitting tab, it goes through them all just like Bash does. But if the list is rather long, I can also do ls and just hit tab in this case. And you'll notice that it lists out every file in the directory, but with Z Shell, I can use my arrow keys to select the file I want, which is kind of nice. I can also keep hitting tab and it will go through the files.
Yeah.
So I can go through, and then when I get to the one I want, I can hit enter.
Order restored.
And I can also hit
Restore.
tab again and start scrolling through all the different files and add another file to that list. Where with Bash, at least with the default setup, I can type in list, and if I hit tab, it
Red
lists
Suns,
them all,
please. Shell.
and I can
Red
see them,
Suns. New shell.
but
Red
it doesn't
Suns.
let me scroll through them. And also, at least not by default, they're not color-coded by file type. So that's really nice. That's one of the main reasons, the original reasons I switched, was just this nice tab for auto-completion, being able to select what file I want like that. That is very nice. Other differences I've noticed, at least with my setup, clear the screen here again. So we have the tab completion is just a lot nicer with Z Shell, with the case insensitive and being able to scroll through the files and select the one you want, where I can go capital B here and hit tab, and since it's the only file, I can, when it starts with a capital B, it will do that, which is nice. But let's say I have a folder here. Let me show you in the Bash first. I have a folder called test. So cd te, and I can hit tab, and it shows a file called test. But again, I'm looking for a folder with a capital T. So I'm going to go capital T tab, and there's a folder inside that. I can hit tab, and then there's a file inside that. So I have 2 folders in the file. Now with Bash, the way the default setup here, if I hit enter now, it's going to tell me I can't change directory to that. I can't cd to that because file is a file, not a directory. Where with, and this could be, again, personal preference, what you like, I can say test, file, and when I hit enter, it tells me, that it can't cd to file, but it moves me to the directory file is in, which I think is kind of nice. Now, if you're used to this
homebrew
down here in Bash, that can be confusing at first. Like, oh, I messed up the command, and you might start typing it all out again. Like maybe I meant list, and you do that, and then you're going to get an error because you're already in the directory, so I don't have to type in the full directory. So again, that's a difference. That's just how I have it set up. You may or may not like that. It's just a different preference. So, few differences here and there. I also want to point out, we'll also down here, we'll go man bash to bring up the man file for bash. And up here, I'll type in man Z shell for Z shell. And if we go all the way to the bottom of the file here, you'll see that the bash man file is 4,000 lines long. If we go all to the bottom of the Z shell man file, you'll see that it's only 286 lines long. Why is this Z shell so much shorter? Well, let's go back to the top of the file and actually start reading. Because Z shell contains many features, the Z shell manual has been split into a number of sections, which is pretty nice. So you can go section by section, but the last one here is Z shell all. So if I man Z shell all, or ZSH all, I can now go to the end of this file and you can see that Z shell has over 23,000 lines
Oh, wow.
of manual. So that's something to
Crazy.
think about. So anyway, I just wanted to point out a few of the differences. There are some others.
I see.
I'm trying to think of what they are off the top of my head that I use normally, but that's mainly it. The auto completion is just great. And really, I think that's the reason most people switch to Z shell, is just how great the auto completion is. If you use Z shell and you know some features that I didn't mention, go ahead and mention that below. If some of the things I showed you could do in Z shell, you know how to do in Bash, go ahead and mention that below in the comments. I thank you for watching. As always, please visit my website, Films by.
I'll start with something non-controversial.
No, I'm fine. Controversial. That's not usually my problem. Yeah.
It's well known around these parts that in 2007 you did an interview where you said that although you've used many Linux distributions, you had never used Debian because you found it difficult to install.
Yes.
Have you tried it since?
No.
No. That was quick. I'm sure it's gotten much easier to install. To me, a distribution is, I'm sorry, you may want to close your ears now. A distribution is not very interesting. I want it to be easy to install so that I can just get on with my life, right? Which is mostly the kernel. The closest I got to installing Debian was there was one machine. Which one it was? It may have been the MacBook Air that actually had trouble installing something, and Debian, the installer would boot, but then it didn't install there either. And eventually, I figured out what was the problem with that machine, but by then it was too late.
If there's a way to break installing an operating system, I've found it multiple times. And if there isn't one you already know of, I found it. And Debian, last time, super easy. Highly recommended trying.
Maybe I should try. I mean, one of the problems I have is I am not an MIS person. I mean, I may do kernels and people think that that means that I'm technical. But when it comes to actually maintaining machines, I am a complete disaster. Right, and I change my own machines regularly. So changing the system I run on my machine would be easy, right? I end up upgrading machines a couple of times a year usually, but I end up having also to maintain my family's machines. And that ends up being the one that I don't upgrade my family's machines very often, and I don't want to run multiple different distributions across different machines because I suck at MIS. So it ends up being, for me, a distribution is something very sticky. Once I started with one thing, I have a really hard time just doing something else because that means I have to switch over all my kids' machines, my wife's machine, and that's just painful. So that's why.
I'm downloading Solaris 11. Solaris 11. Gmail. Control T. Bash. Load. Piece of shit. Gmail's so fucking shit. Yeah, you're loading. You're taking so long to steal my data. No. I don't want to go to Google/products. I want to go to Gmail. My version of Gmail, you know, the one where, you know, he stole all of my data. Stole my code as well that I've copyrighted and trademarked Google. Yeah, I put in a copyright claim. It's mine. Who the fuck are you? Shitty company. Really good coil I've got at the moment. So I've got a what forgotten here. So it's my old K box. The charger's fucked, but it's still going on. It's solid as rock. Got it up to 200 watts, but the box end does up to 160. It's in a Nokin, but it's 100 to 200. I think it's a 0.28 multi coil. Music.
Red, blue, violet, green, blue, red, blue, gray, blue, black, yellow, blue, green, white.
Load. Sign in. Yes. Save.
The world
For
of
fuck's sake.
Color, the touchstone of reality. Color to excite the mind. The vivid, pulsating miracle that gives substance to shadow. One of the outstanding scientific and artistic triumphs of the 20th century.
Right, not downloading the shitty OS in America. If it's that difficult, I can't be asked. Fuck off. I'll stick with OS 10.
It happened with a suddenness that rocked the civilized world. The entire world will stream into our living rooms with a velocity of light. Spectacular. The tube with the heart of a rainbow. All the glory, all the reality of nature. I believe in this world to come. I think it's going to be a pretty good world.
Download the latest version of Gas then. Do it. Download. Download.
Who knows what miracles are yet to come? The bright new era dawning. Color, the fabric of the rainbow riding piggyback on that invisible stream of electrons.
Where's my shoulder? pseudo bass. Yes. There we go. That's more like it, isn't it?
Feel the vibe, feel the terror, feel the pain. It's driving me insane. I can't think for God's sakes when I'm driving in the wrong way.
On the 28th of January 1986, Krista McAuliffe gazed in horror as the O-rings failed, and she died, and she died, and she died for the next agonizing 2 minutes and 45 long seconds. She called out the truth on a broken radio. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. It came as some surprise to realize that as she lost everything, the world was revealed in a transmission so bright that she understood everything. You're still alive.
Hash.
You're still alive. 4,000 nautical miles as the crow flies away. A homemade ham radio in the loft of a Hampshire family home came alive, came alive, came alive. And so the 4-year-old amateur operator thus became the only person to hear Krista's last desperate communique. We're alive, we're alive, we're alive. It came as some surprise to realize while he didn't catch everything, the world was revealed in a transmission so bright that he understood everything. He's still alive. Darkness up above led me on like unrequited love, while all the things I need are down here in the deep blue sea. The darkness up above led me on like unrequited love, while all the things I need were down here in the deep blue sea. The darkness up above led me on like unrequited love, while all the things I need were down here in the deep blue sea. But 4 years old, I heard the truth on the radio. So now I keep a moment silence for my silent cave. My silent cave. My silent cave. My silent cave.
Yes. Might not be that count actually. Try that one. Go.
Blacking
Donate.
in and out in a strange
Donate.
part in East London. Somebody I
Fucking
don't
hell,
really
PayPal,
know
what
just
are you
gave me
doing?
something to help settle me
Donate.
down and to stop me from always thinking about you. And you know your life is heading in a questionable direction when you're up for days of strangers and you can't remember anything except the way you sounded when you told me you didn't know what I should do.
Long road off to recovery.
Waking in the morning just like every other day, and just like every boring blues song, I get swallowed by the pain, and so I fumble for your figure in the darkness just to make it go away.
Solidity CSS, so Ethereum VM, Solidity CSS, please.
I've been crawling up the walls and I've been dipping in my darkness with serotonin boosters, cider and some kind of smelling salt.
Step over. Rand.
I can see you hurting beneath your new headdress, beneath your sharp new shoes and your new tattoos. You are directionless. And I know you've been working as hard as you can to preempt the
Bash.
question.
Bash.
Expectation, I understand. So come on
Zero.
now, if we all pull together, we can lift up the weight of the world from your shoulders. Lift up the weight of the world from your shoulders. Just for
C.
a moment or two.
C Omega. Thank you. You C Omega.
Phone alarm. That's the morning into. To the moment you close your bedroom door.
Bash.
All that's left is
Paste. Fetch while asking. Fucking paste, you cunt.
auditions you didn't quite get through. So many masks to wear, so much weight.
Garbage collection on. Garbage.
Only of you. You were glorious, you were glorious. Come on now, if we all
Bash.
pull
Step
together,
over.
we can
Bash.
lift up the weight of the world from your shoulders. Lift up the weight of the world from your shoulders. Just for a moment or two. Come on now, if we all pull together, we can lift up the weight of the world from your shoulders. Lift up
The weight of
the world from your shoulders. Just for a moment or two. And be glorious you, glorious you, glorious you.
with your mixed up.
With your mixed up metaphors and your messed up makeup, your glorious
Fucking miss you.
with your tongue-tied tragedy and your too small t-shirts.
Fucking cunts of friends ruined our relationship. Fucking arsehole.
Don't you worry. All things must end.
Fucking Haley, what a fucking whore. She's not even a whore. No, she's not a whore because she's a skank. She doesn't even sell it. Fucking cunt.
Come on now, if we
Whore.
all
No, she's not a
together,
whore.
we can lift up the
She's just a
weight of
cunt.
the world from your
Fucking
shoulders.
dyke.
Lift up the weight of the world from your shoulders, just for a moment or two. Life gives you demons. Make a deal.
Fuck's sake. Arsehole.
had a difficult winter. We had a rough few months. When the storms came in up the coast, it felt like they broke everything on us at once. It's easy enough to talk about bliss spirit when you're not holding the roof up and knee deep in it. And the pictures and the papers got ruined by the rain, and we wondered if they'd ever get dry again. But I don't want to spend the whole my life indoors. Lay low and waiting on the next storm. I don't want to spend the whole my
Oh, Life on Mars by Amgen is good. I'm sure she did a version of Life on Mars. She did. Perdu dans le désert.
Montre-moi ma place sur ces pieds reflets, pour que j'oublie les jours d'avant, pour que je protège ton corps et ton âme des mirages que tu attends.
Oh, the lyrics, I love this song. French is such a beautiful language. I love French. I can read it really well, and I can read historical French, but I haven't spoken it conversationally for years. Amgen, Life on Mars. Yeah. KSH, ASH, Bash. Step over. Disable cache. It's a god awful small. It's a god awful small affair for the girl with the mousy hair. But her mother is yelling no. Bash. The father is told it to go. But her friend does nowhere. Stop. To be seen. Stop. SH. Stop. Escape. Escape. Fuck's sake. Escape, you fuck. Thank you. No, I didn't say open that link. That's the mistake. You keep fucking making you stupid machine. Just because I'm a fucking cunt. Bash.
Come on. What would I do without you? I'm still alive, but I'm barely breathing. Just praying to a God that I don't believe in. 'Cause I got time while she got freedom.
Fuck's sake, was that battery now?
'Cause when a heart breaks, no, it don't break even. The best days are some of my worst. She finally met a man who's gonna put her first. While I'm wide awake, she's no trouble sleeping.
Now the whole world gets to know what a fucking cunt you are, Hayley. Utter fucking cunt. Utter fucking cunt. Eat shit. You might have a load of shit friends on Facebook, but I actually know some quite influential people. Fucking cunt. Here we go. This is for you as well, Helen Hall, you little slut.
Who the fuck do you think you are, meddling in other people's relationships? You little slut. You lesbian little slut. What are you doing with Matt Healy as well, poor guy? You haven't strung around your little fin. You think that just because you're ugly as sin, got no tits, got zero tits, you're a fake vegan, and you're just a fucking moron. Like, you think you're awesome because you have a mortgage in your house because mummy and daddy paid for them. Brilliant, well done. Go and rot in hell, you little bitch. Hayley, you're the worst person I know. Literally, you're the biggest narcissist. You have herpes. Number 2, you have herpes. You got it from Jez. Number 3,
Well done, Jez Russell. Fucking perv he is as well. I've heard a number of people he's tried fucking coming on to. Ask Goose about who Jez keeps coming on to. Fucking bloated fat idiot. Fucking cunt.
Sup, actually sup. You're the worst at all.
Sup. Fucking cunt. Fucking cunt.
What would I do with it? What would I do with it? Come on. What would I do with it? I'm still alive, but I'm barely breathing. Just praying to a God that I don't believe in. 'Cause I got time while she got freedom. 'Cause when a heart breaks, no, it don't break even. The best days
Rails.
are some of my worst. She finally met a man who's gonna put her first. While I'm wide awake, she's no trouble sleeping. 'Cause when a heart breaks, no, it don't break even. No.
What am I supposed to do when the best part of me was always you?
What am I supposed to say when I'm all choked up that you're okay?
I'm falling to pieces.
I'm falling to pieces. They say bad things happen for a reason, but no wild words don't stop the bleeding. 'Cause she's moved on while I'm still grieving.
I just want to say how awful Imager and Reddit are. I think that Alexis Ohanian is anything but hilarious. He's a fucking cuckold. He's shagging a communist, stupid fucking idiot called Serena Williams, who is basically a man. So he's a homosexual. She had the child through another man, so that makes you a fucking loser. Spez is just a dork. Hey, this is for Alexis Ohanian. I've got some light reading. Hey, this is for Alexis Ohanian. I've got some light reading for you. Maybe before you claim to be the mayor of the fucking internet, you should read a fucking book, you stupid cunt. Hey, this is for Alexis O'Haney, and I've got some light reading for you. Maybe before you claim to be the mayor of the fucking internet, you should read a fucking book, you stupid cunt.
She's all laid up in bed with a broken heart, while I'm drinking Jack all alone in my local bar. And we don't know how we got into this mad situation, only doing things out of frustration, trying to make it work. Man, these times are hard.
Home, ref logo,
She needs me
Facebook.
now, but I can't
Yes.
seem to find the time.
Edge, XSS, Edge, SHA-3, Ash, Alt-3.
And we don't know how we got into this mess. It's a God's test. Someone help us, cause we're doing our best. Trying to make it work, but man, these times are hard. But we're gonna stop by drinking on cheap bottles of wine, shit talking up all night, saying things we haven't for a while. Why, yeah. Smiling, but we're close to tears. Even after all these years, we just now got the feeling that we're meeting for the first time.
Good stuff.
She's in line at the door with her head held high. But I just lost my job and didn't lose my pride. And we both know how we're gonna make it work when it hurts. When you pick yourself up, you get kicked to the dirt. Trying to make it work, man, these times are hard. But we're gonna stop by drinking on cheap bottles of wine, shit talking up all night, do things we haven't for a
Bash.
while, yeah.
Bash.
Smiling, but we're close to tears. Even after all these years, we just now got the
Define perfect. Define perfect. I don't judge others because I'm not perfect, but define perfect. I do judge others because I have every fucking right to. That's the problem with Buddhism. It's just like it's another fucking, silo type death cult. Let's all just forget everything and just pretend that nothing ever happened and kill ourselves. And pretend like we're going to be reincarnated. We're not. What the fuck is wrong with you? Fucking stupid ass religion. Buddhism shit as well.
Saying things we haven't for a while. We're smiling, but we're
Fucking
close
death
to
cults.
tears.
All of them.
Even
All of them are
after
death
all
cults.
these years, we just
By
now
definition.
got the feeling that we're meeting
That my religion is truth.
first time.
And religion is fucking bullshit. 100% bullshit. 100% bullshit.
Creepy porn lawyer again. Creepy porn lawyers in jail. Creepy porn lawyer. It's too good. It's just too good. It's too good. It's just too good to be true. It's all a massive fucking conspiracy. And creepy lawn boys and other porn.
that the Clintons are Osborne along with Theresa May. Good old creepy porn lawyer.
At tmay.gov.uk.bash.bash.bash.bash. Bash, bash, bash. Bash, 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 bash. That's the problem, you see. That's the thing. If you're stupid enough to steal people's data, then they have root, by definition, if you allow them to log in to your system. So as the government allows me to log into .gov.uk, I can very easily send a voice message to tmay.gov.uk by doing this. Scrolling down to theresamay.gov. URI equals me.
May. Hi, Theresa. Hi. So I'm a member of the Conservative Party. I'm also a member of the Liberal Party. I think you should resign immediately. I think the way that you're acting is an absolute disgrace. And it pertains to treason. So you should better be fucking careful, because there's probably quite a few of us that are considering a private prosecution for treason. And do you know what the sentence for treason is? Life in prison. So I would recommend that you resign immediately, or face open rebellion on the streets. Literally. Just fucking resign, you cunt. Do it. Have some self-respect. You're a narcissist. Your husband's linked to Soros and a bunch of financiers. Just resign immediately.
Shouldn't stand a chance.
It really needs no introduction. That's why you came. But Nick was, of course, Deputy Prime Minister.
The best Deputy PM we've ever had.
In the last government before it all went wrong. I'm not going to be too political today, but we actually met a couple of months ago at dinner sort of with some people from politics and some people from tech, and had a great conversation about how these two worlds are increasingly colliding. And we got talking a little bit about what needs to happen to make that collision a productive one rather than a destructive one. And Nick very kindly offered to come and say a little bit about how he's thinking about that. So Nick's going to talk for a little bit. I'm going to ask some questions, and then we'll open it up for questions to you. Thanks so much, Lee.
Not at all. Well, look, it's lovely to see you, and you basically summarised what I wanted to say. So we could probably just cut straight to the. Yes, exactly. So we could probably cut straight to the Q&A. But I mean, really, to amplify what you just said, my main message, it's a crude one, it's a simplistic one, but it's a terrifically important one.
Yeah.
But it might also be a rather unwelcome.
It won't be. Keep talking, please, Nick. I respect you.
You, the tech entrepreneurs of today, the tech titans of tomorrow, really need to try and engage in whatever way you can with the world of politics. I know you might groan because the long-standing ethos amongst entrepreneurs generally, and perhaps tech entrepreneurs specifically, is a fake.
If you could get them into one, if you're not getting
Shard.
more than one thing, they could see
Shard.
Are they like?
Reuters, please.
They start to question.
Reuters, what's going on in the world?
They're like not just relating to themselves, or like myself, politics is just something that shouldn't affect me. But politics is life.
What's going on in the world? Reuters.
It affects you.
And Russia today. Yeah, Russia today. shit flash flooding in the wildfire zone. That's fucking dreadful. At least it's dousing the flames. Japan's still weak on inflation. They're still having to print money. Next, yeah. What my screen looks like.
A lot of women weren't just fasting at this minute. They weren't taught to wire a plug, they were taught to make a sandwich. They weren't taught how to change the wheel on a car. They were taught the proper way to iron a white shirt. You can't climb up the street, you're a girl. You can't come with us because you're a girl. And it made me damn determined to do it. And I suppose it sort of stuck with me. So I didn't say anything, but I shouldn't be out there doing what I was doing. Why I shouldn't have picked it in. Why I shouldn't be in the support group.
Step over. Brackets. Shell. Yes, shell. Me shell. TSH. CSS debugger. CSS debugger. Yes. Fucking load, thank you. Step over. Solidity CSS. Solidity. Stop. SH. Stop. 0. Stop. Stop emulating. Me. Cursor command. Me. There. You fucker. Stop.
Optimistic as a team, not terror. Everything's crash, it's time. The day of says the enemies among us, taking our women, taking our job. The reasonable fool is being dreaded by the non-stop bang, bang, bang for God. So I go hunting for witches. I go hunting for witches. Cause I'm down to roll. I got to war with desire. I watch TV and form you. I want an ordinary man with desire. There must be a possibility. This pattern missing. Keep this in place.
Curve. Curve. Yeah, Facebook curve. Bash. Step over.
So I go hunting for witches. I go hunting for witches. Cause I'm down to roll. I go hunting for with desire. I watch TV.
Yes, edge. Left edge. Oh, nice. Oh, thank you. Oh, what a cute bunny. Where's my dinner? Request for timeout, sequential, 3 over 2. Kill terminal, die, don't need it, die. Alright, just keep it, it's pretty good, this is a good shot. K equals R, K equals R. BuzzFeed's such a jump. Vivaldi, where's Vivaldi?
White lips, pale face, breathing in the snowflakes, burn lungs, sour taste. Lights gone, days end, struggling to pay rent, long nights, strange men. And they say she's in the closet.
Oh, Robert De Niro split up with his wife, that's a shame.
Her daydream, been this way since 18, but lately her face seems slowly sinking, wasting, crumbling us, 'cause we're just under the upper hand. Go mad for a couple grams, but she don't want to go outside tonight. And in a pipe, she flies to the motherland, sells love to another man. It's too cold outside for angels to fly. For angels to fly.
Poor sod. The guy wasn't a Christian missionary, by the way. The guy that was killed, he was just a traveler. Poor sod.
Tried to swim, stay afloat, dry house, wet clothes. Loose change, banknotes, weary-eyed, dry throat, cool girl, no.
Poor sod. It said he was martyred, so it means he was a fucking missionary.
Stuck in her daydream. Been this way since 18, but lately her face seems slowly sinking, wasting, crumbling like pastries. And they scream the worst things in life come free to us, 'cause we're just under the upper hand. Go mad for a couple grams, but she don't want to go outside.
Just like your breath. Sometimes I still think of you, and I just wanted you to know, my old friend.
I love you. I love you. Ow. Are you?
Oh, what a lovely animal.
So sweet.
Yes. What's going on Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan on uncontacted tribes. I've read a lot about uncontacted tribes. Check out
This morning, I saw a video
cargo
right
cults.
before the podcast.
Really
about
interesting.
The guy in India, he was trying to convert them. Apparently, Jamie was saying
John
and they shot him
Frum.
full of
Yeah,
arrows.
John Frum.
Well, one of the last
Cargo
uncontacted
cults, very
tribes in
interesting.
the world.
But what a doofus. What'd you think was going to happen, right?
Jamie said the guy's been there before, right? Did you say that?
So they knew him?
No, the guy, well, I don't know if the people that killed him knew him. Wouldn't they say there's between 50 and 100 people on this island, I believe? See if you can get a good article on it. Is that the number?
I'm trying to pull up an article.
So there's like 50 to 150 people. They don't exactly know. And they came there, say from, it's the size of Manhattan. It's an island. And they came there from Africa, like, what is it, like 60,000
Yeah,
years
a
ago?
long time ago, and they've been there ever since.
Exactly where I
Amazing.
And this is near India?
Yeah, somewhere in
Yeah, the
India or
Negritos.
near India, some island.
Negritos,
Some dude was trying to bring him to Jesus. And they
Fucking
said, if you
retard.
like the guy, we'll introduce you to him. They filled that motherfucker full of, oh, wow, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, that's fucked.
That bitch is in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
So they came off of Africa.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
they came from the Maldives and that direction.
Spread that out so I could go
How the
see
fuck
all
did
that
they
shit.
get there?
That's crazy. Yeah.
I've read all
You know
about
what's
it in the
interesting
past.
too? In England,
What a
they call
retard.
people from India Asians. They think of that as Asia.
Because it is,
right?
because it
That's
is Asia, yeah.
But we got weird with Oriental at some point in time. Oriental became derogatory. Some
Yeah.
weird way.
Orient just
Oriental
means
was
east.
normal. Like
Yeah.
Oriental rugs. That was like a thing. You'd go to Oriental rugs.
Yeah.
That's like if someone was saying, Spic toothpaste. Like, hey, motherfucker, you can't say that shit anymore. But at one point in time, Oriental was like a total.
It was a real thing.
Yeah, it was part of the language. But so now we say
My
Asia
sofa's
to try to be
terrible.
politically correct. But Asia's fucking giant.
Furniture.
There's a lot of different kinds of folks in Asia.
What were those, like the people that ended up on that island?
One dude.
They
Oh, the people the original people? Yeah.
They, how the fuck you're running away from something to end up there?
Well, that's if you read about the migration of people from Africa spreading out, that's a big part of what they're doing. Is trying to get away from people that are trying to kill them.
Yeah.
Like it's all either they run out of resources, they run out of food, or they're being forced out of areas. Like new people come in and people escape and survive. And through our entire history as human beings, it's like bigger, more powerful human beings move into an area and kill and rape and then spread out and then keep going. And everybody else just keeps going. And then they eventually fortify in the distance and get a new city and they try to hold them off. And then new people are coming through. I mean, there's so many instances from the Mongols to the Romans. I mean, you can go back and back and back all through history. But if you broke it down, if you looked at it like a math problem, like what's happening here? Here's what's happening. These groups of people get together and then they develop some shit that kills other groups of people. And they push into those groups of people and try to fuck their chicks.
Yeah, that's pretty much
Try to
it.
steal their money, fuck their chicks, eat their food. And then they do the same thing. And then people go back and forth. And this is all people have done. Like there's never been a time where no one was at war. Like if you ever gone through human history, there's no like, well, there was a period of 100 years where there was no wars. It's never happened.
Yeah, never.
It's never happened.
You're the best guy to ask about this. Isn't it impressive how they built those arrows, right? The
Rufta.
craftsmanship, because they're
Use
proper
Rufta.
arrows.
What they look like.
They
Do
flew
they
up.
have pictures of the
What
arrows?
heads
But
they got
apparently he
here that
died
might be
just of the
useful.
arrows hitting him. So the way I was thinking it was in order for an arrow to be done properly, right? And you could aim and then hit someone and kill him. It has to go through the whole structure of the pelvis.
No,
All
it
that.
doesn't have to. I mean, especially if they hit him a bunch of times. If they hit him a bunch of times, they could have shot him in the guts.
Even with shitty arrows?
Well, I don't think they have shitty arrows because they need them to survive, right? So there's got to
This
be
is really good
animals,
research.
and they're
It's
hunting these
amazing
animals.
research.
But it's not that hard
Amazing
for
stuff.
these people and these kind of tribes if they have the proper wood on the island. People have been making bows and arrows for a long time, and they'll use certain fibers from certain trees, and they weave them together and make a bowstring. And if they have enough good wood and they have good fiber and they have the knowledge, I mean, even if they don't have metal, you could still, to this day, I found one in Nevada. I found an old, I don't know what era it's from,
Wooden
but I
chip?
found an arrowhead. while I was actually bow hunting, I found an actual arrowhead from some Native American tribe that they had left behind. Apparently, they were really common. Like people find them all the time. Because you think of the thousands of years that the indigenous people were here and all the different animals they shot with bows and arrows, they figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
So these people must know how to do it too. And if they have enough good stone to make, something flint or something similar to make the arrowheads, or maybe they're using something toxic. Maybe they have some sort of toxic plant and they're just dipping the tip of a sharpened tip into it.
If you dip the tip in something toxic, can you eat that meat?
Yeah,
after?
you can apparently.
But not the area near the
It's a
arrow.
good question. It's a good question. I don't know, but a lot of these tribes that shoot things, they shoot things with poison on the end of their arrows. Yeah. Well, the idea is that they want to eat it, right? If they don't hit it perfectly, they're not going to wait for the perfect shot. They're just trying to hit it. So if they can hit it in the ass or in the neck or wherever the fuck they hit it, if they have poison, that thing's going to die. They use poison for a lot of weird shit too. They use poison to fish. It's really strange. They
poison the fish.
Yeah, it's crazy. They take this plant and they smash it up, and
This
they
is
make
so
it's like
interesting,
this
Joe.
green plant. I think was that the Yanomami of somewhere, maybe Bolivia or something like that. It's one of those tribal peoples that lives almost uncontacted, but still they'll have like Under Armour t-shirts on and shit. It's weird, but they're barefoot. And they take these plants, and I forget what plant it is, but they smash this plant up and make like this green pulp. And then they put this pulp in these ponds, and these fish just float. It's some sort of toxin, and it just fucks these fish up, and they just float up to the top. And then they go and scoop the fish and take them out of there. But it like paralyzes them.
It's not toxic to us, I guess.
I don't know, man. I mean, maybe
Must
they just
be a little, but I guess you have to be really fucking hungry to think, okay, I'm not killing enough or getting enough fruits or vegetables. I'm going to poison these things. And I'd rather die being poisoned than starving to death.
Well, I think these people have been guys hiding.
No, but
Son of a bitch.
I'm sorry.
What would I do with it? What would I do with it? Come on. What would I do with it?
I'm still alive, but I'm barely breathing. Just praying to a God that I don't believe in. 'Cause I got time while she got freedom. 'Cause when a heart breaks, no, it don't break even. The best days will be some of my worst. She finally met a man who's gonna put her first. While I'm wide awake, she's no trouble sleeping. 'Cause when the heart breaks, no, it don't break even. No. What am I supposed to do when the best part of me was always you? And what am I supposed to say when I'm all choked up that you're okay?
There was a huge debate recently about whether or not women in Britain should be allowed to wear not the chador or the just the scarf, the headscarf, but the all-enveloping veil, which only allows a slit of this kind. We should allow it because it's Islamic. And because the Quran calls for women to cover their head. Now, the Quran doesn't call for women to cover their head. There's no such call in the Quran. There is probably only one society in the region, now that the Taliban has been removed, namely Saudi Arabia, which calls for women to have their faces covered. If you went out like that in Turkey or in Tunisia, for example, you would actually be arrested. You're not allowed to do it in Muslim societies of this kind. Yet in London, it's considered that the most extreme must be the norm, lest we be accused of being insensitive to Muslims. This is the way the ratchet gets turned. An elected member of the Netherlands Parliament, a man called Geert Wilders, was recently arrested and deported at London Airport and sent back to Amsterdam because he'd made a film criticizing the Islamization of Holland, which is being a campaign of violence, including the murder of Theo van Gogh, the descendant of the great painter who made a film about the oppression of Muslim women in Amsterdam. Our Archbishop of Canterbury, Dr. Rowan Williams, a man who does an almost perfect imitation of a sheep in human form. An early objection of mine to Christianity when I was at school was being told that I was a member of a flock. I don't know how you chaps and chapesses feel about this. I always felt flock was a bit much, although I know some people of whom it could be said. But shepherd, look, we know shepherds don't look after sheep just because they like them, okay? They either want to or fleece them or eat them. The whole thing has always seemed terrible. You'll forgive the expression. I hope that one has to come out with it. That's how Rowan Williams is to me. And he says that he thinks that the United Kingdom should have Sharia law for Muslims. No Muslim had demanded this. No Muslim imam had yet felt strong enough to dare demand Sharia law in Britain. But the Archbishop of Canterbury says, well, let's make nice. Let's give it to them before they ask for it. Let's cry before we're hurt. Let's concede before it's even been demanded. This is a civilizational question to me, and it must be resisted.
And I actually, when I arrived in Atlanta, I turned on the TV, CNN, and the first person I saw was actually Christopher. And I was very alarmed, not at what he was saying, but at what he was speaking against. And that was the notion that there was a serious motion before the United Nations that saying anything critical of Islam would be criminalized.
Let's just eradicate it.
And that's
It's
the
fucking
end of free
disgraceful.
speech, and it's very dangerous. But perhaps you want to comment on that, because I think you're probably much more astute.
The United Nations non-binding
Pig
so-called
fucker
non-binding
religion.
resolution, which has carried now for 3 years, was carried
Pig
against-
fucker religion.
sponsored by Pakistan, a country for which we pay. It isn't really even a country, barely even a state. It's a construct of Muslim partitionism carved out of the body of India. It wants to tell us what we can say and what we can think in our own country. It says that we mustn't ever use the word Islam in any sentence that includes the words violation of human rights, for example. And this is in the week when the government of Pakistan has handed over to the Taliban its most fertile valley, this valley of Swat, 100 miles from the capital, Islamabad, and said, you can run this valley militarily and legally. You can have Sharia law, you are the police and the enforcers of it, and you can close all the girls' schools. But we can't say that your religion is anything to do with the violation of human rights. It's preposterous. Your point about the one-way street is very well made, if I may say so. There are madrasas within 50 miles of where I live in Washington, in Virginia. There are Saudi paid-for schools that preach violent anti-Semitism, a hatred of the Shia Muslims. Remember, don't ever forget, they hate other Muslims too. Hindus, of Christians and Crusaders, and of course of atheists. So they've got me, 3 times, I suppose, in this field of fire. And don't worry, it's coming to a place near you. The Qurans that are given out in our prison system to Muslim prisoners by Muslim chaplains, paid for by Saudi Arabia, are Qurans written to the Wahhabi tune. They're not just your everyday Quran. They're the Qurans that the Wahhabis want you to read, containing direct incitement. They've been given out with taxpayers' money in the prison system. Militias are forming. Next, you'll have militias of this kind with their own chaplains within the United States Armed Forces. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to have Wahhabi preachers in the US Armed Forces? You better get ready for it, unless you're going to take the James Madison view that there shouldn't be any chaplains in the US Armed Forces to begin with, or in the prison system. If you want to pray, you can't stop them. But we cannot have state-subsidized prayer. We cannot have state-subsidized preachers or chaplains. Give it up, or give it to your deadliest enemy and pay for the rope that will choke you. This is very urgent business, ladies and gentlemen. I beseech you. Resist it while you still can, and before the right to complain is taken away from you, which will be the next thing. You will be told you can't complain because you're Islamophobic. The term is already being introduced into the culture as if it was an accusation of race hatred for example, or bigotry, whereas it's only the objection to the preachings of a very extreme and absolutist religion. Watch out for these symptoms. They are not just symptoms of surrender, very often ecumenically offered to you by men of God in other robes, Christian and Jewish and smarmy ecumenical. These are the ones who hold open the gates for the barbarians. The barbarians never take a city till someone holds the gates open for them. And it's your own preachers who will do it for you, and your own multicultural authorities who will do it for you. Resist it while you can. And if you wonder what will happen if you don't, look and see how a cricket team in Middlesex in England had to change its name by force last week because it was called, and had been for years, the Middlesex Crusaders. Look and see how stories about little pigs can't be taught to children in English schools anymore, lest offense be taken by the religion of peace. Resist it while you can. It's funny how the fish rots from the head. I mean, we mentioned the Archbishop of Canterbury caving in on Sharia. The Prince of Wales, the chinless, bat-eared elder son of Her Majesty the Queen, a man with no taste in women, as far as I can see. His whole job is waiting for his mother to die. Will, when Her Majesty's heart ceases to beat, will at that instant become head of the state, head of the armed forces, and head of the church.
Oh, for God's sake!
This is what you get if you found the national church on the family values of Henry VIII.
Yes, Cubinettes. Cubinettes, yes.
And he says that he wants to be not just head of the church family, but head of all faiths. And with King Fahd of Saudi Arabia has built a gigantic Wahhabi madrasa mosque in North London, where were housed the man in whose
sequential time out.
Well-known overnight guest there. They were housed 2 or 4, I think, of the 9/11 hijackers. A pest house in the middle of London, paid for by Saudi money, and enjoying the patronage of His Royal Highness Prince Charles. It's a trahison, a very high-level trahison by those whose responsibility it is to safeguard and to uphold what we used to think were safeguards. They've sold them out in an attempt to show how friendly to Islam they can be.
Okay.
Soldier records by the pile, they were only yours for a while. Placed your furniture in the yard, it was gone within the hour. When you moved
Also,
all your friends came over and you told them what to take. When you moved away, everyone thought it was a mistake. Mop the floors and fill the cracks to get your security deposit back. Closed your account at the bank and checked your tires and filled the tank.
yes.
When you move
Um,
all your friends got drunk and one by one begged you to stay.
Where's the TV remote? It's around here somewhere. Up. I can just use the PS3. Yes, PS3. Why isn't this loading? I need to put it on Chromecast.
Mount Everest, 29,000 feet, the highest point on Earth. Captivating and deadly. In the 1920s, to conquer this mountain was the greatest challenge remaining in a golden age of adventure. Everest, the edge of heaven, where many believed no human could survive. But not George Mallory. Everest is the last great conquest for man. The wildest dream.
The wildest dream.
George Mallory dreamed of being the first man to climb Everest. On June 8, 1924, dressed in gabardine and hobnail boots, he and his fellow climber, Sandy Irvin, were last seen 800 feet below the summit. Then the clouds rolled in. They were never seen alive again. Many believed that almost 30 years before Everest was officially conquered, George Mallory was the first man to set foot on the top of the world. "75 years after Mallory and Irvin vanished, mountaineer Conrad Anker took part in an expedition looking for their bodies high on Everest.
Conrad, come in, please. I'm down at 26.7, over.
Anker struck off on his own.
Conrad, you're way below the search zone. You need to be higher, over.
I was curious. I stopped, turned around,
And there was a patch of white. It wasn't snow. It was matte, a light absorbing color, like marble. As I got closer, I realized this was the body of one of the pioneering English climbers, frozen onto the mountainside. For a moment, I thought maybe I could just keep walking and keep it to myself. But then, that's what we were there for.
Group meeting. Mandatory group meeting. Over.
Here, wait. This is George Mallory. Oh my God. Oh my God. You see that? George Mallory. Oh my God.
George Mallory and I, our two paths have intersected 75 years apart.
My aunt called me and said in a rather small voice on the phone, "Susie, they found my father's body on Mount Everest." And I was amazed. I was absolutely shocked. It was very powerful to know where my grandfather was and how he died.
He had a compound fracture of his right leg above the ankle, fatal on Everest.
His arms were outstretched, as if he had tried to dig his fingers into the side of the mountain. He was last seen up on the ridge, heading west for the summit. But I found him far to the east. So Mallory was on his way back, maybe returning from the summit itself. His sun goggles, vital against the glare from the snow, were in his pocket, so it must have been getting dark. He and Irvin were tied together by a thin cotton rope. They were tired, absolutely beat. No energy
I know what
left.
that feels like when
Mind's
you
not
have nothing
functioning
there.
clearly.
But you can't think straight.
Mallory crossed his left leg over the broken one to ease the pain.
It was a matter of minutes, a half hour at the very most, before he died.
did Mallory reach the summit, almost 3 decades before the first official climb. We discovered many things on his body. Documents and letters perfectly preserved 75 years later. His wristwatch rusted in at 10 after 5. The goggles that were inside of his vest. An altimeter, the face broken and the hands missing. But one very significant item was missing. The photo of his wife, Ruth, which he'd promised to leave on the summit.
Was the photo missing because Mallory had reached the summit and placed it there? The ultimate tribute to his love of Ruth? He was last seen about 800 feet below the summit, near the notoriously difficult second step.
If Mallory was able to make it to the summit in 1924, he and Irvine would have had to have climbed this overhanging cliff at about 28,000 feet.
There had been a confirmed free climb of the second step. Everyone who climbs it today uses a metal ladder bolted to the rock by Chinese climbers in 1975.
I want to go back to Everest to try and climb the second step under the very same conditions Mallory faced. It was a pure cliff when Mallory and Irvine approached it. No one had ever been there. It would have been an incredible feat of climbing if they'd pulled that off. Adventure, risk. There's some people that thrive on it, that seek it out. They want to push their own limits.
11:31. 11:31. All right, 11:31. 11:31. Cast. No, not desktop. Fucking stop, you cunt.
People that thrive on it, that seek it out, they want to push their own limits. Mallory is one of those people. Mallory grew up in Cheshire. He made his first fateful climb in Moberly, his home village. Mallory's father was a vicar here at this church. It was here that the young boy escaped and climbed up to the top of the church, age 7. Imagine that. Finding climbing. It's his true passion in life.
I actually think that some people who climb are wired a little differently from the rest of us. My grandfather really didn't feel fear of heights or precipices or anything like that. He had a way of climbing that was not quite like everyone
He was
else's.
fucking gorgeous as well.
His arms and legs would just sort of eat up a mountain, and he would start flowing over it like a wave.
Age 19, Mallory entered the University of Cambridge at a time of great cultural upheaval.
When I arrived in Cambridge in 1985, he pitched into this ferment and bubble of ideas, excitement, intellectual, sexual, social, secret societies. He obviously possessed some remarkable charisma, sort of charm, presence that drew the eye, compelled the gaze.
My mind is in a state of constant rebellion. I believe that will always be so.
He was a dreamer. And he was in Cambridge at a time of great and powerful dreaming. And eventually, that dream took its form in the shape of Everest.
This was the golden age of exploration. Mallory watched with the rest of the world as explorers from America, Norway, and Britain raced first to the north and then the South Pole. In 1912, Captain Scott, the legendary British adventurer, died in the attempt to be the first to the South Pole. Mallory was among those inspired by the tragedy.
Britain was at the waning of the empire at this time, was looking for ways to reinvigorate itself, and so attention inevitably turns to Everest as the final possibility, the third pole.
Calculated that Everest was the highest, but no Westerner had ever been within 40 miles. Mallory became obsessed by a mountain he had never even seen. Mallory wasn't just enthralled with Everest. He had also fallen in love with 21-year-old Ruth Turner. Right from the start, they wrote each other adoring letters. My darling, I'm longing for you. I would kiss your lips and look into your eyes, and you all near me and with me, strong and glorious and loving and laughing.
I cannot find words that would be sure to convey what I feel about you. What I really want is to know you and to love you more and more. Dearest and most beloved, your loving Ruth.
George and my grandmother Ruth fell madly in love in 1914. They were both idealists, really seeing kindred spirits in each other. They were married 3 days before the start of World War I.
Mallory enlisted and came face to face with death once more, fighting in the Somme, the bloodiest battle known to man. There is no reckoning with death here. Life presents itself very much to me as a gift.
Mallory had witnessed the mass slaughter of the First World War. His fellow soldiers, some of them 6 feet away, killed by German shells. He knew how fragile life was. And knowing this, he wanted to live it to the fullest. He wanted the ultimate challenge.
First expedition in 1921. He had to approach Everest through Tibet from the north. The Nepalese refused to allow access to the easier south, used when Everest was first initially climbed in 1953. After a 8-week journey, For months, Mallory led the search of the route to the summit he used. Finally, late in August, he found what he was looking for. An enormous glacial valley that snaked for miles around the other giant peaks, towards the very foot of Everest. My dearest Ruth, we have found our way to the great mountain. At the end of the valley was a wall of snow and ice 1,000 feet high. It led up to a crest that Mallory named the North Col.
Fuck.
Established our way to the summit for anyone who cares to try the highest adventure. But the heavy snow that comes with a monsoon summer quickly made climbing impossible. They had to head home. Within 6 months, Mallory was back again. This time with film cameras to show Everest to the world. Higher than anyone else before him. Beginning the season, as Mallory led porters up the mountain, disaster struck.
Great snowfall had come. They got to a delicate place. This massive ice floe triggered.
Ash, K equals R. K equals R. Stop. Stop emulating. 0. Print 0.
My dearest Ruth, 7 brave men, and I had to die.
After the avalanche, when sort of frontier, he really had no wish to go back to Everest. He just wanted to get away from the deprivation.
Where's Rainbow Crack gone? Rainbow Crack, where are you? Find her. Rainbow Crack. I could use Toz. Okay. Oh, there's my Z shot. Okay. Oh, it's all just crap. I don't need all this data. Oh, there we go. That's a nice little route. It's a nice little route. Loop and see.
Really starting to think about wanting to be home
and to address himself to raising the kids.
I love you, and you love me, and that ought to be happiness enough for a lifetime. But I do want you. We want to live together all the time, and share thoughts and joys and sorrows. We can't apart.
I'm having a horrible time on a tightrope. It would be an awful tug going away instead of settling down in the grief. But it would look rather grim to see others without me coloring the sun.
Kubernetes. Yep.
She really loved me very dearly. She was his sweet, domestic, beloved partner who represented all that was appealing about home, family, the flatlands of Cambridge, sea level. But Everest represented all that was exciting, adventurous, visionary, mystical. His personality was pulled between those two poles.
He was the star of two of the sports club in New York.
I can just imagine the audience on the edge of their seats as Mallory told them about the fighting wind, the lack of appetite, the fierce
This is where a famous quote comes, and everyone thinks it's because it's there, but it's a bit more complex than that.
Mallory gave his legendary reply. Because it's there.
Three words that have probably become more famous than Mallory himself. Suggests the sort of fatalism bubbling away in Mallory. The mountain remains, it's unclimbed, and so the quest remains. And he is the man who is locked into this almost fairy tale relationship with the mountain. He's been twice, and he must go back the third time.
Oh, come on. I'm allowed to leave a fucking group Facebook. Thank you. Another option is to... Yes. Click on that, whatever that does. Okay. I'm assuming it was snooze.
Page 38. This was Mallory's last chance to conquer love. Conrad Anker will follow Mallory's footsteps, leading his own expedition to Everest and the second stone. During his climb, Conrad test clothes and boots modeled on those he found on Mallory's body.
using this record, I had this chance to go back and see what it was like for Mallory to try climbing Everest in 1924.
But like Mallory, Conrad is torn between his passion for Everest and his love for his family.
My family's anxious about this trip. I'm going to Everest. It's a deadly mountain. What's it worth? Is it worth leaving your kids behind? Why are you going to this mountain? Are you going to be safe? You know I love you. And I can see there, as I was trying to rationalize it to my wife and children, that it's a safe thing, it's a fine thing, it's a noble thing. But these are the same answers that Mallory had for Ruth.
I know what it's like to be the wife of a climber, and I know what it's like to be the wife of a climber.
Jennifer was previously married to one of America's finest mountaineers, Alex Lowe, Conrad's climbing partner. Just a few months after finding Mallory's body, Conrad was climbing with Alex when the mountains claimed another life.
An avalanche struck Alex and I as we were climbing in the Himalayas. He died, and I was 3 feet away.
Jesus.
You could just look at him and tell that he was burdened with this world of guilt and grief that somehow he could have prevented Alex's death.
In the aftermath of this tragedy, we communicated with each other, and eventually we grew to fall in love. And it wasn't just Jennifer that my love grew for, it was also the boys. Jennifer must really like climbers to willingly bring me into her life and then marry and have me adopt the boys, because she knows it's downright dangerous work. Boys, dearly, what I downstairs. Good God. Is this my Halloween costume, or is this when I'm going up Everest? You gotta laugh at it like Inspector Gadget. I'm just being serious. Mom can appreciate it.
Oh, it's amazing to think that those guys going for the sun. Would you climb Everest in that suit? No. What would you wear? I wouldn't climb Everest.
Before climbing Everest, Mallory had to choose his climbing partner. Among the candidates was a 21-year-old history student, Andrew Sandy Irvin, a mountaineer in Yonkers.
My great uncle Sandy Irvin took life by the horns, and if there was an opportunity that presented itself to him, he would take it. He loved the theatre, he loved cars, and above all, he loved women.
Bash.
This very indiscreet love affair with his best friend's stepmother. It was a terrible scandal. But Sandy Irvin was, first and foremost,
Where's that crack gone? Crack.
he was selected
Downloads.
in the Oxford and Cambridge book race.
Where's it gone? Not Toz. Where the fuck is it? No. Rainbow Crack, there we go.
And what we saw in Sandy was this extraordinary ability that great oarsmen have, which is to row through pain, to push himself almost beyond normal human limit.
Using Irvin, Mallory needed someone technical to master the oxygen equipment vital at high altitude. And unlike Mallory, Irvin was very practical.
Sandy asked the Mount Everest Committee to send him a 1922 set, plus the drawings, and he spent hours and hours in his rooms in Oxford, trying to make it serviceable, trying to make it lighter, stronger, and less fragile, so that the climbers could use it with greater confidence. And so the fact that Sandy was so practical with the apparatus, I think, made it quite clear in Mallory's mind that he was a useful man to have climbing with him.
Conrad Anker has also chosen a young Englishman as his climbing partner, Leo Colby. Like Irvin, Leo is young, strong, a natural athlete, and a has never climbed at high altitude. The 90 feet high second step will be a dangerous venture into the unknown.
Internet treasures, what was on there? Don't forget I'm here forever. Disable cache. Stop. SH stop 0. Fucking hell.
Heroes never been to altitude. This unknown. And you can't walk into a hospital and take a test that will come back and say, oh, you'll do well at altitude. Some people do really well. But I've seen fit people doubled over and with splitting headaches. Being invited to climb the highest mountain in the world with Conrad, one of the best climbers in his generation, is such a privilege. For Irving, being invited to climb with George Mallory, the best climber of his generation, on the unclimbed Mount Everest, I just can't imagine how he must have felt. I am walking on metaphorical air. We shall go all out for the summit. If I had to die, then there would be no finer death than in an attempt to conquer Everest.
On February 29, 1924, Mallory set sail from Liverpool after making Ruth a solemn promise.
As my grandfather was leaving England, leaving my grandmother, he told her that he would leave a photograph of her at the top of Mount Everest.